going to keep this pretty simple today. I'm going to give a short introduction, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jenya, and Jenya is going to take you through sort of Google Apps 101, what it is and how it works and how it might help you in your day-to-day. And then we're going to jump right into some demonstrations, and we're going to talk about how to use Google Apps and Salesforce together. Salesforce.com and Google have had a long-standing partnership. It exists on 3 different levels. We have partnered on the platform side, Force.com and App Exchange, as well as Google AdWords and Salesforce. And Salesforce and Google Apps is really one of the most impressive joint products that we've built. Google, of course, is down in Mountain View. Salesforce is up in San Francisco, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about how we could make it easier for our customers to work in the cloud, to run their business in the cloud. And it really comes down to the fact that we have a shared philosophy that business applications should be delivered over the web. Salesforce.com, of course, is the enterprise cloud computing company. We have over 1.5 million paying subscribers. A lot of people think of Google, of course, as a search giant and an online advertising giant, but they are also the world leader in cloud computing, communication, and collaboration applications. They have over 10 million business users, and they're growing like wildfire. And after you see some of the functionality and the features today, I encourage you to check it out. We're going to talk about just the tip of the iceberg, but the best way to really experience it is to go try it out for yourself. So again, Google Apps, just like Salesforce.com, is cloud computing. It's really easy to get started. There's not a lot of capital expenditures. You don't have to buy a lot of software and hardware. Of course, it all runs in our data center. We keep it safe and secure and fast, and it's scalable and all that good stuff. You don't have to worry about upgrades. That's another great thing we'll talk about, is that when Google rolls out new features, just like Salesforce, you don't have to do any kind of patching or upgrades. You automatically inherit all that new functionality, and you can just kind of choose to explore it, and I'll kind of show you how that works. After we do a quick tour of, Jenny's going to give an overview of Google Apps, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of Google Apps. Then we're going to jump into the integrations that we built. So all of you Salesforce users out there, it's really easy to get started with Google Apps. And what we did is we tried to really design these integrations so that a Salesforce user or a Google user could use Salesforce and Google together as if they were designed by one company. So the main pieces I'm going to talk about today is Salesforce and Gmail, using Salesforce and Google Docs. Google Docs, of course, is Google Presentations, Documents, and Spreadsheets. Salesforce and Google Talk, which is our instant messaging utility, and also Salesforce and Google Calendar. And those are kind of the 4 pieces we're going to talk about. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Jenya, and Jenya is going to take us through sort of an overview of Google Apps. Jenya?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and it's a pleasure to be here and to introduce you to the exciting world of Google Apps. I'll start by talking about our current customers. We have quite a few companies that are realizing the benefits of cloud computing in large enterprise sector, as well as a lot of customers in small and mid-sized businesses. Just to let you know that small and mid-sized businesses have it a little bit easier. It's a much faster migration path. It's a little bit easier to move from whatever solution you're currently using, whether it could be a webmail, whether you're starting from scratch, or if you are considering using Exchange or maybe already on Exchange, we actually give you the tools to migrate your data and move to Google Apps. We have a lot of customers that are currently using Google Apps Premier Edition, and we sure hope that you guys will be our customers as well. Just to put things a little bit in perspective, in 2006, Gartner came out with a report saying that on average, about 8 out of $10 spent in IT was dead money. It was money just kind of keeping the lights on, the money spent not contributing to business change, not growing, not innovating, just making sure that your email is running. By 2008, we see that Gartner came out with a report saying that a lot of businesses are realizing the benefits of cloud computing, and by 2012, at least 1/3 of business applications will be software service subscription instead of the software product licensing, running it in-house. About 50 to 70% savings with cloud computing, the Forrester report in 2008 as well. So what are companies thinking about what they're doing when they're looking at their current IT infrastructure and trying to figure out the next steps? How to make your employees more productive, how to spend the same amount of money or less and give the same amount of tools or better to your employees. Is IT really a part of your core business? Do you really need to keep that complex infrastructure in place by having a server, backup, anti-spam, antivirus, or would it be easier to take advantage of the tools that are available in the market that provide you with all the all the tools that you need to do your job, to be innovative, to be creative, and actually love the tools that you're working with? So that's why we have Google Apps Premier Edition. A lot of customers that I work with, they move from keeping, for example, Exchange in-house, and they're very familiar with high cost associated with it. That's your mobile delivery servers, your spam filters, your backup storage, your tape backup, patches, a lot of things that go into place where all you need is just the tools to do your work, your email, your collaboration tools, and being able to provide your employees with the best that technology has to offer. And that's where Google comes into play. The costs that are associated with it are also something that I'd like to bring your attention to. With an in-house solution, you're spending about $300 to $1,000 per user per year for all the things that I've mentioned earlier. With Google Apps, the price is uh, quite less expensive. You have the tools that allow you communicate, like email and Google Talk. You have the tools that help you with collaboration, Google Sites, Google Docs, and we'll go a little bit more in detail about that. And all these are great innovative tools that we at Google are using ourselves. As you know, Google is a very innovative company. We started working on Gmail back in 2000, and if you think about Outlook, and Outlook being one of the main clients that you use with Exchange now, it's been created back in 90s, and back in 90s you've been receiving what, maybe 20, 30 emails per day. Now people are getting hundreds of emails per day, and the old way of creating folders, moving things around, trying to organize your email, not being able to find information quickly is just not going to work in the situation that we are today. Gmail is designed to help you manage your email very quickly, very efficiently, being able to find information very quickly. And we provide a lot of storage for it, so you don't have to worry about deleting emails and making sure that you keep with 1 or 2 gigabytes size mailboxes. We give you 25 gigabytes of storage for each mailbox. And just to give you an idea, the innovation goes nonstop at Google. We introduce new features on a regular basis. You don't have to wait a year or more for the new upgrade or update. The features are released on a regular basis, and as Sean mentioned earlier, you don't have to do anything. You just will have all the updates available to you, whether it's for your collaboration product or email. So that saves a lot of time for the IT department as well. So what is Google Apps? Google Apps Premier Edition includes quite a few different applications. We think that we should be able to work on our daily basis, being able to communicate and collaborate, and not having to worry about going to different vendors to get the product that you need. Here you get everything. You get your communication with email, instant messenger. You can collaborate with Google Documents, spreadsheets, presentation, Google Slides, Google Video, and we'll go a little bit more in detail when we jump into the demo of the product. But just to give you some facts about it. So with Gmail, you are receiving 25 gigabytes of storage per mailbox. Google Talk provides you with instant communication within and outside of your business. We also include video conferencing, so you can do it directly from your web browser. You can chat, you can do voice over IP, and you can do video conferencing with people that have cameras. Google Calendar allows you to manage your business calendars as well as personal calendars, public calendars. You can overlap different calendars on the same page, being able to view the resources, availability of people, and conference rooms, and manage everything on your Google Calendar and have access to it from anywhere, whether it's your mobile device, whether it's your laptop, or whether you're traveling just using somebody else's computer. Google Documents and spreadsheets and presentation. This is something that is really different from what you might be used to. Not having to create a document and then send it as an attachment and then receive emails back with different attachments, multiple versions of the same document. All you do with Google Documents and spreadsheets and presentations is just sharing it. You are inviting your coworkers, the people you're working with on a document, and they can view the same document in real time, edit it, and you can go and see the revisions. And Sean will show you a little bit later how that works. Google Sites. Sites is a great collaboration tool. We give you quite a bit of storage, and you can create sites for different projects you're working on. For example, some customers that I work with use it for their intranet. It's an easy way to share rich media like presentations and videos. Very basic tool that allows you to collaborate in real time online and being able to access that information from anywhere in the world. Google Videos, just like YouTube for your organization. If you have some training videos, it's very easy to upload them, view them, share them. If your president wants to address your company and share some information by sharing a video, that's your tool right there. And we also include Google Message filtering for your security. So all the emails will be filtered for you don't have to worry about anti-spam, antivirus. We will take care of that for you. All emails before coming in or going out will be filtered, and you can customize and go in a little bit more granular control of what type of content filters maybe you'd like to set up. Let's say if you're using social security number, something like that within your organization, and you don't want that information to get out, you can set up a filter so the email will be stopped and the information will not go out. So if you have any additional questions on that, we'll go a little bit more in detail on that after the demo. But right now, I'll pass you on to Sean.
Thanks, Jenya. That was a really good overview of Google Apps, what it is and how it works. And now, why don't we take a look at what Google Apps looks like, the actual product. I'm going to start out with Gmail. Gmail is kind of a different approach to email. And we use Google Apps here at Salesforce, and just like Google uses Salesforce down at Google. So Jenny and I run our day-to-day business in the cloud, and we run it on Salesforce.com and Google Apps. So for those of you who have seen the consumer version of Gmail, there's one pretty significant difference. Google Apps Gmail is for business. It's associated with your domain, and as Jenny mentioned, it has all of the security and compliance that companies are requiring these days in their email infrastructure. It also, of course, it runs in a browser. You don't need to download anything or install anything. And it has some interesting features. And I'm just going to talk about a couple of these. For one, of course, Google is the giant of search. I really appreciate the search. So if I'm looking for something, I don't have to, search and go get a cup of coffee and come back and see my search results. I can actually get that instantaneously. They can index all of your email no matter how much you have. The other thing I really enjoy about Gmail and appreciate is the threaded conversations. Now I don't have to go into folders and kind of piece part conversations together and, God forbid, I take a vacation for a week and come back and try to read email traffic. I can see the entire conversation. So, really it gives you really good context and good visibility into an email thread. So that's another kind of nice feature. The tagging is nice as well. I can tag emails so I can pull them up. And another nice function, another nice feature that I like is, aside from the search, of course, is that you can actually log these emails to Salesforce automatically. One of the integrations that we built was an integration between Gmail and Salesforce. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like when I jump into Salesforce. But I've got a meeting coming up with Andy, and he's confirming that the meeting is Tuesday at 1 p.m. I can simply reply to him and say, looking forward to it. let's meet at building 42. And when I do that, I can actually add a BCC, and this is actually my unique email to Salesforce address. So I can send an email in from anywhere, from my BlackBerry, from my iPhone, from my email system. I can always either send an email to this email address, or I can actually copy it. And what this will do is automatically associate this email to the appropriate object within Salesforce.com. That could be the contact or the lead or the opportunity, and you can set that up in the settings. I'll get into that in a minute. So when I send this now, when I go back into Salesforce, I can look up Andy Smith, and I can look up the lead or the opportunity or the contact, and you'll see this email is logged. And as everybody knows, it's really important to keep track of all of your activities and conversations that you have with your customers. So Gmail is a different look at email, and the threaded conversations, the powerful search, the integration with Salesforce.com. It's one of those things where after you use it for a little while, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Let's jump over to Calendar. This is Google Calendar. It's a full-featured calendar system. One of the things I like about Google Calendar, aside from the fact that it's 100% browser-based, it runs on any device, is that I can overlay other people's calendars. So if I want to see my VP of Sales, Greg's calendar for the day, and see if there's any place where we can sync up, I can actually overlay his calendar on top of mine. But it's not just other people's calendars. I can also see things like marketing campaigns. I can understand, when my company is running a campaign, I might want to reach out to some of my customers or prospects. I can see marketing webinars going on right now. For instance, the Beyond CRM with Google Apps webinar is happening right now. I might want to invite some of my prospects or customers to it. And a really interesting integration that was built by a company called Appirio, A-P-P-I-R-I-O, is the calendar sync. And what the calendar sync is it synchronizes your Google Calendar with your Salesforce calendar. So what that really means is that any events or tasks or calendar events that you have in your Salesforce system can be represented in a calendar-based view in Google, or vice versa. So you can go from Google to Salesforce, or Salesforce to Google, or you can have a bidirectional synchronization and designate which one is the master. So really what this gives you the ability to do is have a calendar-based view of all of your activities, marketing campaigns, webinars, sales tasks, all of your colleagues. It's really a nice way to work. And you'll notice when I jump over to Salesforce, I can see all of these events in Salesforce as well. So it's a bidirectional synchronization between Salesforce and Google. The next piece I want to talk about is Google Docs. And as Jenya mentioned earlier, Google Docs is really a new way to work. Google Documents, which of course is word processing, presentations. For instance, this is a Google presentation you are looking at right here. This is all done in a Google presentation. There's no software here. This is all running in a browser. Google Docs is really a new way to work. It enables you to collaborate in real time with people on documents, presentations, and spreadsheets. And I'm going to kind of jump into this in a little bit more detail when I jump into the Salesforce integration, which is really nice. But this is kind of your one place in the cloud where all of your presentations, spreadsheets, and documents live. I never start a meeting without having a Google Doc to take down notes. Spreadsheets are easy to share and socialize. There's revision tracking, and it's really kind of a great way to work. And as Jenny mentioned, no longer do we send large file attachments and worry about filling up our email, or worry about having an attachment too large, or worry about whether or not your colleague is looking at the same version of a document as you are. There's one single representation of this document that lives in the cloud, and we're both working on it in real time. As an example, Jenya and I actually collaborated in real time on this presentation and demonstration, and we'll show you a little bit more how we did that. I'm going to jump into Docs in a little bit more detail when I jump into Salesforce, but one of the last piece I want to talk about here is Google Sites. Google Sites is really website development. So whether it's a wiki or an intranet, it's a really powerful tool to help you collaborate across your organization. This is an example. This is called Sales Central. It's really a sales portal or a sales intranet. I have things like company announcements on here. I can have a sales and marketing calendar if I want to that is updated. If there's any news or company events that are happening, I can actually hook up corporate logos and any kind of a company presentation. And the really powerful thing about this is that when I edit this, I don't have to call my webmaster. I don't have to fill out a ticket with IT. I can simply go in and I can edit my section of this site. And everyone can actually be an owner to their their individual piece of a site, and they can be contributors, they can be collaborators, or they can simply be viewers. For instance, this is the presentation that we're looking at. So again, kind of working in the cloud, enabling each person in a company to do more without having to go through heavy processes. The last thing is Google Videos, and Jenya mentioned this is kind of like your own private YouTube. So you can upload training videos or educational videos or any kind of video representation of collateral that you want, and you can share it just like a document with individual people, groups, or with your entire organization. And so it's really, kind of taking the power of YouTube and letting you kind of build some walls around it and enable your company organization to share videos. So that's kind of a high-level look at Google Apps. And now why don't we kind of jump into some of the integrations that we've built from Salesforce. One thing we did is, Google Talk is a wonderful instant messaging utility. You can send files. You can see which of your colleagues are online. For instance, if I want to see if Jenya is online, I can say, hey, Jenya, are you there? And, immediately I can understand, if she's there and if she's available or if she's busy. So, kind of a omnipresence, if you will, for people using .com. Before we get started, all of you Salesforce users out here, just kind of remember where you go to get started. If you'd like to, you can go into your setup, which of course is the place within Salesforce.com where you do all of your administration. You can go into the Google Apps section. And the Google Apps section here is kind of where you go to get started. Now, when you go here, you can do two things. You can sign up for a new Google Apps account if you don't have one, simply by going and saying, I want to start a new Google Apps account. The first thing you're going to have to do is sign up, and the first step, you have to verify your domain. So again, this is all tied to your domain. Your email address is not going to say @Gmail. It's going to say @yourdomain.com. So one of the first things Google does require is that you verify that you are, in fact, the owner of that domain. And there's a couple different ways you can do that, but it's documented very clearly, and it should only take you a few minutes. And then you can simply start to turn on these services. So, Google Docs in Salesforce, turning on the Google Docs tab, so the place where all of your Google Docs exist, the Gmail integration to Salesforce. There are also a bunch of third-party services you can turn on as well. I mentioned the Perio Calendar Sync. They also have a contact sync, so if you want to synchronize all of your contacts between your mail system and Salesforce, you can pretty easily do that. There's single sign-on to make sure that you only have to authenticate once and you're automatically signed into both Google Apps and Salesforce. And all of these things are here, and you can turn them on. The other place that they all live is on the App Exchange. So if you haven't been to the App Exchange, which of course you can reach from up here, you can visit the App Exchange and you can actually add all these apps into your Salesforce organization. The other place that of interest is email to Salesforce. Now, we used actually a platform feature to integrate Gmail with Salesforce, and I talked a little bit earlier about your unique email to Salesforce address, which lives right here, and you can just go here after you set it up. And you can basically designate when you do send emails into Salesforce from Gmail, are they associated with the opportunity, with the lead, with the contact, with the most recent activity, or all of the above, and it lets you kind of designate how you want to do that. So let's jump back into a lead, for instance. I'm sure you're all familiar. And I will go to the lead, Andy Smith, with whom I've been emailing back and forth about an upcoming meeting. And of course, I have some information about this lead. Now, remember the email that I sent earlier to Andy? There's a log of this email right here. So myself or anyone on my sales team can immediately see what kind of conversations I've had with Andy. Not only that, but I can see all of our conversations. So for instance, you can see I've had multiple email conversations with him. I've had a phone call as well. But here are also some documents. So we talked a little bit earlier about sort of the collaborative nature of Google Spreadsheets. And I'll give an example. Here's an ROI spreadsheet that I shared with Andy and we worked on together. And this is, again, it looks very similar to Excel, but again, this runs in the cloud. So a big difference is I can see that Jenya is actually viewing this spreadsheet. And if I see her on there, I can say, Jenya, would you mind updating this model for me? And immediately Jenya gets that notification. I don't have to send her an attachment and have her rename it and send me a different spreadsheet back. As you can see here, she's actually in the document, the same version that I'm looking at. She's making changes. And what's really powerful is that this is changing in real time. I can see what she's doing. And if I actually want to, I can actually go in and I can see the revision history. So if I want to, I can actually go in and I can understand who's made changes to this document. If I don't want to accept changes, I can actually go and revert back to the old one. So again, it's the ability to understand which version you're looking at. Everyone's make changes to the same version of a document. It's kind of a powerful new way to work. It's not only presentations and it's not only documents and spreadsheets, but it's also presentations. So there are presentations such as the one that you all are viewing right now. So this is a Google presentation. It runs in the cloud. I can add speaker notes to it. I can open it up and I can make changes in real time. And if I want, I can actually share this document with everyone in my organization, or I can designate who can edit and who can see. So if I want Jenya to make some changes to this, I can simply add her to the document and I can send her an invitation. This is giving me a notification that Jenny is in fact outside of my domain. This is another setting that you can set up. You can designate whether or not you can share outside the domain or with only people inside your domain, or if you just want to prompt and let people know that they are in fact sharing a document or a presentation or spreadsheet outside your domain. Now this sends an email invitation to Jenya with a link to this document, and she can go in and start making changes. Another nice feature that exists between Salesforce and Google is Google Docs. Now all of my documents, presentations, and spreadsheets I can see right from Salesforce, and if I want to, I can open up any of these and collaborate just like we showed you just now. The last piece we talked about is Google Sites, and this is really a powerful tool that you can use. If you have any group within your company, sales group, marketing group, HR, finance, everyone has their own site, and what they do is they limit the number of people who can see the information, and it lets you update it, and you can actually see this right in Salesforce.com. So that's a high-level overview of Google Apps, what Google Apps is and how you can use it within your Salesforce system and how you can use the two together. At this point, I'm going to open up the line for some questions. You should see a box come up now in front of you, and if you have questions, feel free to send them in. First question: what editions of Salesforce does Google Apps work with? So Google Apps works with all editions of Salesforce, whether you're on Group Edition, Professional Edition, Enterprise Edition, or Unlimited Edition. Google Apps works, and you can go right into that setup area in the Google Apps section, and you can sign up. So again, whether you're on the free version of Google Apps or the Premier version, or you're on any version of Salesforce, they all work together. Number two: where can I find out more information? Two-part question: how can I get started? So there's a couple places where you can find out more about Google Apps. You can go to google.com/a, and there's a huge amount of self-service discovery tools, and you can really kind of understand anything you want to about the product. Again, the search is very powerful, and they've done a great job of really populating that site, google.com/a, with information about any Google Apps you want to talk about: Gmail, Calendar, Talk, Docs, Sites, Video, or Postini. All of that stuff is there, and they do a really good job. How do I get started? Well, again, go into your setup area of Salesforce, go into the Google Apps section, and just get started right from there. It's pretty quick, and you should be able to get up and going in a few minutes and really kind of experience this for yourself. Third question: does the email work with BlackBerry? Yes, it does. Gmail works with BlackBerry or with an iPhone. They've also done a really good job of making sure that if you're migrating from an existing email system like Outlook, that they make it really easy to kind of migrate. One of the features we've here is something called dual delivery. So we had people on Outlook previously, and we were moving to Gmail, but it's not you don't have to stop using one and start using the other immediately. You can actually do a phased migration, so you can deliver emails to two different systems during your migration, and then eventually turn your legacy system off. So they do a pretty good job of giving you all of the integration and migration tools that you need to move to Gmail. So I had some questions about the cost. The cost of Google Apps, as Jenny mentioned, is significantly less than any on-premise email systems. It's about $10 a user a month. And if you want to understand more about that, you can call your AE at 1-800-NO-SOFTWARE, or you can go to our website at salesforce.com/Google, and you should find some more information about how to get started. Got a lot of questions coming in, so please be patient, and we will get back to all of you with questions. And again, I encourage you to send questions as well into Google Apps at salesforce.com if you. Oh, good question here. Is this compatible with Microsoft Office? Yes. In fact, any Google document that you're working on, you can export that to a PowerPoint or to a PDF, or vice versa. If you have some sort of a PowerPoint or Keynote or PDF document, you can also import that into Google Docs. So there is a bidirectional compatibility between on-premise things like PDFs and Office documents and Google Docs. So I think that's all the time we have today. And just a quick reminder that we will be sending out this presentation as well as the recording. And if we didn't get to answer your question, I apologize, but we will follow up after the event and make sure that you get all of your questions answered. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy day today, and hopefully you will all attend on June 25th when we talk about how to generate more leads with Salesforce for Google AdWords.